Okay. Oh, I've got to, let's see. Oh, okay. I guess I better make this camera get me a little higher in the frame, right? Well, maybe not. Doesn't matter. Probably as less you can see about me, the better. I guess I'm looking for if there's any questions, if somebody's a return to these live streams that I've been doing. Other than that, I mean, I could talk about what we did. I'll just talk about what we did in Wyoming when we got there after joining from Walport, Oregon. See, I don't know anybody that's listening to this with I guess I got to start at the beginning all the time, so I got to learn to do that faster. But I ended up joining what I thought at the time. Anyway, maybe I'm going to go through a little bit of my history. Or maybe I'll just play some flute. Was there any votes for continuing that or talking? I'll look at it. So unless something pops into my head, talk about, because that's certainly more important than tooting the horn. But tooting the horn was part of the program, according to the prophecy. That's why they called it a trumpet. Actually means reverberation in the Greek. And so like a vibration. And everything, that all interfaces with all these vibrations. Holy shit. What a world we live in. And a lot of people don't think there's any other vibrations except what they can see. And what they can see in the cell phone. But they think that's the limit of it. And so that's what keeps us mammalian. The more we limit what's possible, and everything's possible, you know, in a general scheme, of course, and then within each unit, everything's possible, you know, but everything has limits too. That's where the spiritual people, I think sometimes some of the people that I haven't actually had too many conversations with. Well, maybe I have, but maybe I kind of got too preachy or something. I don't know. Well, let's see. Have you heard about, got a message here from Alan. Have you heard about, excuse me, my voice. Wow. Have you heard about Ragnar Oak? I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. End of world in Norse mythology. And what is your opinion on it? No, I never heard of that. I never heard of that. I can't remember actually studying Norse mythology. Well, I love you too, brother there, or sister, or in between, or overextending out, or whatever it is we are these days in the genders department, which I'm in love with all, you know, in the design of it, that the next level provides for us to be whatever we want to be. And we should all have equal rights for all that, whatever we want to be. Even to become rotten or to be in the next level's camp. And that's all degrees, of course. Back and forth with degrees of. And that's life experience. And that's where we get our lessons. Dealing with the problems instead of running away from them. But I'm not saying I'm an expert in dealing with the problems. Actually, I've had it very easy. You know, joining T and Doe's group, T used to call it the real world when we went out to our jobs. And I thought, wait a minute. You know, in my mind, I thought, that's the real world? I thought we were being taught the real world, being the next level's world of being the overseers of the planet as a garden, and where they're growing souls to be graduated through an astronaut training program to be a god astronaut, you know, a deity astronaut, above human astronaut. You know, to be on spacecrafts where you're working in laboratories that are as big as planets, like T and Do compared to in a movie they started to make, which they said was fiction based on the truth. They said was Pluto, and so they depicted Pluto having a You know, I should make this into a better thing. I should be able to put these pictures up. I don't know. I guess I could do that if I held it up and if I had to print it out, right? Yeah. Maybe I can look into that. Maybe there's some way I can do that. I kind of have some of that on my blog site. Well, some pictures up there. Yeah, yeah. I have Pluto up there actually, and on my page, I guess, on the header of that, and it shows like 4 big, like triangular shaped objects. Not triangular, rectangular shaped objects in a row, sort of like the black keys on a keyboard. And it wasn't until after I left. This is, you know, I saw this in 2015 when the Ceres lights were happening too. When the 2 spacecrafts that were out there were happening too, going out there, so the New Horizon and the Dawn spacecrafts. I think the New Horizon is the one that went to Pluto, and the Dawn spacecraft went to dwarf planet Ceres, like in Serial, which is actually the Roman goddess of harvest, which I believe is the period we are in right now. If you want to talk about Norse mythology, that would be considered, I would call that the beginning of Tiendo mythology, I guess. But I hate to put it in that way because we think of, I I was raised to think that mythology was an illusion. It was just like a Hollywood movie. But actually everything becomes mythology the further away it gets from what actually happened to stimulate it, I believe. And in time and mindset. And the mindset is controlled to some degree by, well, completely actually, by the spirit world. All the dead humans are actually using human vehicles for their computer systems. I mean, you know, their ability to experience life through them, because they can't feel it anymore. They get a feeling from it, but I think it's more the feeling that we gets transferred physically, but through the frequency of spirit, an etheric frequency of some sort. I don't know what the frequency is. Maybe it's 100 hertz. You know, maybe it's less than that. Maybe it's more than 100 hertz. Maybe when we have certain experiences, I haven't actually studied this part of it, but maybe when we have certain experiences like sex, orgasms, and things like that, and you know, running real vigorously, I wonder if that advances our hertz, because I know the hertz is based on the brain frequencies that are coming out, like when we're asleep, as opposed to measured in cycles per second, and I know, like, you know, a little above 0 is considered you dead, but it's a little above 0. So I guess there is potentially still something going on there. But, or maybe it would just be the cellular material alone that's not being enhanced by whatever frequencies are embedded on it, or because of the accumulation of those frequencies that became thoughts, and those thoughts were saved in a database, and that's actually the genetic database that extends beyond the body, but is produced by the body. But that the start of course comes from the combination of the parents, and obviously, and but the spiritual part is what We get that for both, but I think there's a difference in one to the other. But I'm not going to get into that now because it would just be supposition. Well, I don't know. Since I'm trying to talk about genetics, I know I'm not a scientist, and I'm not that well spoken about this. I know that, and I can't even write it very well. But I can look at key parts to the whole subject, and get a pretty good view, I think, sometimes from them, because whenever we see more of what's there, what seems to be there, by like putting things together. Well, let me give you an example. I started to study the genome, the combination of the genome, which is the double helix, and then there was also, the science told me that there were histones, and these histones looked a little, well, I don't know, the way I think about them is just not perfectly round, but maybe a little squarish. And so I thought, like, hey, like a computer chip, or like one of these little memory disks, for these SAN disks, 2 gigabytes, And I thought, okay, wow, that's interesting. Then they also had these antennae. Well, I call them antennae, but they're cilia. Little cilia that I saw. I thought, wow, look at that. Look like sensors, right? Sensors, like antennas of sensors, too. And so they got the polarity there between all that, and that's all happening in the nucleus of the cell. So the cell is the computer system that's outside of that. And it's like, I was a computer programmer for years during the group, and I knew what it took to make something happen, with code. And they call it genetic code. And it is. It is programs. Tiendo talked about it as programs that are that we are programming ourselves. So who are we? We're nothing actually except for we're everything. We're the decider of what programs we're going to run on our computer. Our computer being that genetic structure that's growing all the time. It's changing. When we change our mind, we can change aspects of our physical as well. But it takes a lot of power to do that, and the power comes from the next level. So you can bring the next level's light, their frequencies, in through the top of our heads, into the pineal gland, and watch it go through your head, watch it go through your hair, your skin. You can, to the degree that you want to imagine it, traveling through your head, thinking about it coming from the evolutionary kingdom level above human, the highest source you can reach. Think of it that way if it's too hard to put any other terms on it. The highest source you can reach, but we're reaching actually people. To think of it as just a nebulousness is not accurate, because it is people. When Tiendo first said that to me, it was after I was in the classroom for a number of years. It was like, whoa. In my mind, I was like, whoa, I took note of that. I mean, I took note of a lot of things they said, because they always had a way of saying something that didn't occur to you before. For me, anyway. And I think I could speak for my fellow students, because they wouldn't have stayed students for the time that they stayed students if they weren't enthralled by Tiendo constantly. Yet Tiendo didn't butter us up. They didn't pat us on the back. Once in a while, maybe a couple times in 19 years. When they explained that to us, because they weren't here to make us anything. They were here to provide us with what they have, and that is a pathway to membership in their kingdom. And it's not easy. It's not easy, and we're all prepared for it. So, and it doesn't mean leaving everything behind. But it can mean that. And it will eventually mean that to everybody that follows this seriously. But the next level is very gentle, very patient. They proved it on me. Not that I'm saying I'm somebody now. I'm not necessarily somebody, because I'm not measured. I'm not measured by what other people or even myself measures me at. It's not accurate, because it's only in relationship to the older members that there's any accurate measurement of me. And that's the same for all of us. But we can measure each other by what we do and what we say, of course. And that we must do. And determine who we want to spend time with and who we don't want to spend time with. And that's, of course, the challenge that we all have, especially when we're, wanting to hook up with somebody and have that interchange of love and affection and, direction. It helps so much with a lot of things, right? And that's part of the school of human kingdom, to be like that. And it's like we're all the grass growing in the human kingdom, and we're all on one level, on a spiritual level, we're all the grass. Okay, on a less spiritual level, then we're like the horses and the doggies to the human kingdom. And the human kingdom then, in that sense, is the next level above human kingdom. And kingdoms is strictly a scientific way, but it's also a historic way of thinking about a many-membered kingdom. Instead of thinking that there's one God and then there's, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So there's three gods, really, or whatever that is. It means, I guess, one God and another God, and then this holy, invisible thing, or whatever that is. And of course, that does represent something. That represents the structure of a three in things, and which I'm not a numerologist, so I'm not going to try to sound intelligent about that. But but it's interesting how Jesus said that your word was 2 or 3 witnesses. If you brought 2 or 3 witnesses to the dispute, and or you bring it to the group. Anyway, I don't want to get off on that. But let's see, where was I? I got to go back to some place that I left dangling in that little tirade. I know I'm preaching. I'm sorry I sound that way, actually. But I guess when you keep on doing it over and over again, you can't sound like anything else. But it's not like it's not preaching in the sense that I care about whether anybody has any value to what I say or not. I do care a little bit. I do. I can't say I don't, because I think I know what I found and still have, and that a lot of people have, whatever they call it. Doesn't matter what they call it. It's a sense of higher power, and sometimes that's goes through all different ways of feeling and thinking, so that when we try to nail it down to being a certain set of scriptures, whether it's Buddhist or Islam or Judaic or Christian, or and we say that this other one isn't right, that's where we get into total trouble. But if we look at that other one and think about what the similarities are, and but that's what dwindles between the religions, and that's why the religions are all at war with each other. The Christians against the Islamics, and the Islamics against the Judaics, and the Hindus against the Buddhists. No, Hindus against the Buddhists, yeah, and the Hindus against the Islamics, and so you can see why someone would say that religion was the root of all evil, and that's what it does become that, but it's not. I don't know if it's any bigger of a root than wealth is. I don't think it is necessarily, because wealth and power are also roots. You know, I mean, at least religion, most of them all teach, you know, being kind and gentle, at least in the outside. But you're not actually a religious person if you are running for office in the United States. You're not really a religious person, because you can't be true to your religion and also have all the allegiance that you got to put to that beast of a mechanism that is so based on power struggles and not compromises, but deceit and trying to get one on somebody else, and competition and jealousies and all those human emotions that are of the lower nature, or the more animalistic nature. All those are animalistic. Not that there's anything wrong with the animals, but there's an animal kingdom. The animal characteristics is supposed to stay in the animal kingdom. And well, we have to actually get rid of them. That's what the next level is doing. They're cultivating the genetic strain to get the animal out, so that it can move on to what's above the animal, which is the human kingdom. And the next level took out the links, so the scientists wouldn't be able to see exactly how they cross over from whatever genes and strain they're coming from. Tiendo didn't rule out that porpoises and sea mammals could be an experiment of the next level. Well, they're all experiments of the next level, but that they could have some form of intelligence. I don't know. They didn't get into details, and they didn't try to say that that was the case. They just said that they thought it was possible, but they didn't say everything was possible. So I'm just trying to give you a relative to other things they said. Like some of the other things they said that went right over my head at first, at the time, was that next level could they grow physical bodies to inhabit, and they grow them on a vine. They didn't say this all at once. They said this actually in the beginning and then at the end. So maybe I should give it in the order that I got it first. And that is that they grow physical bodies that can be actually used as spacecrafts. So the soul, which is also physical, but in a less dense physical, more like the wind, the way the wind feels on us. And so I guess can be gradient levels of wind feeling on you. Is actually then the pilot of a vehicle that's grown on a vine to be a spacecraft that has many functions. And so for the different, and you know what, since I got some messages here, what do I say to that? Well, I use a little marijuana. That helps me, actually. I think it does anyway, you know. But it takes its toll also, and if I take too much, it's worthless. I'm worthless to that. So I just one little hit on some decent weed is what I use. And you know what? Doe said that if he had to live in this world, knowing what he knows, he'd have to be drunk for very long, you know, for very long beyond, without this task, you know, that he was helping his students. And I didn't understand what he meant when he said that. I hadn't really experienced the world much when I joined. I mean, you know, I had my limited experience, but, you know, he was in the high society in Houston, so, you know, as an opera singer for the Houston Opera. So, I didn't have that much to leave behind. I had a band that we weren't gigging that much, and when we were gigging, most of the time we were getting just free beer for it, or tips, or meals at restaurants. And I had an A-frame that I was building. I'm talking about me. Let me go back to the chat room. I don't need to talk about me. But I guess that's one thing to the positive, to stay positive. But, you know, that... No, I guess I am generally positive. I mean, T and Doe were teaching, take a chance on a positive. And the thing that T wrote that was called The Power of Goodness, I suggest trying that meditation of thinking of yourself sitting quietly, doesn't matter any position, and thinking about the next level as the highest source you can reach, the highest source of everything, your life, your physicality, everything, that created the planet and all the life forms, and that are beyond the stars. Think about, that's what the way T and Doe first taught. They said, think of as being beyond this higher source as being beyond the stars, or, you know, the deepest deep space. You don't want to just think about it as being the atmosphere of the planet, because the atmosphere of the planet has lower forces in it that try to keep people anesthetized. So it's like, but anyway, this meditation is to think of it that way, and then to feel that energy and coming into the top of your head. I already said this in the beginning of this broadcast, but I don't know when you joined it. But going in, like, and it actually going into the pineal gland, but going through every cell of your body and picturing that healing. I didn't finish it when I talked about it before. Picturing it healing your every cell. And that's the mental cells and the physical cells, however you want to think about it. And that's actually, you're asking for help is the best way you can stay positive. And protecting yourself from the things that bring you down, and trying not to indulge in things that you know bring you down. And, you know, I mean, you got to take breaks from the news. I mean, and, you know, but in terms of seeking, put your mind on trying to find the truth in everything is helpful. You know, but I'm not talking about and you might have to discipline your vehicle to do that, like an exercise machine. You know, to you know, I'm going to get on there, and instead of going to this place and this place that I enjoy, you know, I'm going to spend a little time here. you know, well, if you ask the next level to help you with your next step, that's the best thing you can do. And then you're not, and then watch what happens to you in the world. This is what I should have said to begin with. Watch what happens to you in the world, like the things you see, and the same as you go about your business, but expect to see when it's the next level that's sending you a message. And then, so when that message comes, it'll come with a little hint, a very subtle voice. That might be next level. And you won't expect it. It doesn't work that way for me. Like, I can't say that I'm going to think that and then go about my day thinking, is that it? Is that it? Is that it? Is that it? You know, every thought that comes into my mind, it doesn't work that way. It won't come when you're expecting it. You won't be able to judge when it's going to happen. And but it won't be that far from when you had that thought in events. You know, but the next level's time isn't the same as our time. So we can always ask again. And the more we ask, the better in some ways. You know, but we can get carried away with just like we're asking all the time. And ask specific questions. The more specific, the better. On things about your life that you maybe think you want to go do better or go back to in order to apologize to somebody or to kind of settle differences that you had that you don't really, that maybe you didn't own up to before about, which helps to get it off your chest too, because we carry around that burden that kind of like forms a guilt pattern, and then we end up justifying behaviors and we can get into ruts. And then it's really good to, the next level can help us out of those ruts, but if we're not willing to trust that there's something above us that can help us, then I don't know if the next level can help us. I think they still try, but they do it more with things that happen within the world, like, if somebody's climbing the ladder of the corporate ladder, and the next level wants to give them another chance, they can, I think they can just come closer to them in some way and give them a little hint that kind of spurs them on to try something new or to be a little open-minded to something else. It's like, I think it's even in the form of an energy field. I think the next level can do a lot of that. I think they can shine like a beam down on people that can allow you to see things that you couldn't see ordinarily. Tiendo taught that there's a lot more that we can see with our eyes, actually, not just with the mind, with our eyes. So you're not actually imagining things. And if you want to experiment with that, there's an exercise that T gave us, which was to focus on let's say there's a picture on the wall and it's got a little face on it, okay, or a hand, or the corner of a building or something, whatever. Something specific, and more specific the better, I think, but it doesn't matter. But it depends on what you can see, right? So you just narrow into whatever you can see, you can focus on, and just stare at that so that you have no peripheral vision. You're staring at that, or as little as possible peripheral vision. And then you then you expand it to being just peripheral vision, so that you don't see that anymore as the focal point. And I know sometimes it takes me a while sometimes, but I can get to the place to where I only see the picture on the wall that I'm focusing on. So it's got to be a pretty big picture for me, and it comes into my focus as like a black picture, without, I can't see any detail on it, or it's got color, a little coloration, a little flash of light, white, if it in this that I see in what happens to me when I focus on that. Which I'm not doing right now because I can't do that at the same time as talk, I think. But anyway, so you go back and forth with that, and so it's an exercise. And we learned it outside, so I was focusing on like a tree, or a branch, or a leaf. Didn't really matter what you focused on. You're just trying to work that muscle. Because Theodore taught that we actually have a mind muscle. And they associated it with, well, maybe this is different than the mind muscle, but they said that we had a feeler in our solar plexus area. And that was like a kind of a, I guess you could think of it as a radar. But I don't know if it worked the same way. I don't know if it sent out a signal and then that signal bounces back. But maybe it is that. They didn't say it, so I don't want to say that's, what it is. But they did say that we were magnetic in what we drew to us, like a magnet. And they compared us to magnets. So I guess that's not too far-fetched to make a relationship to. If I did, but my consciousness was just changed, and I'm not sure why, but maybe I want to get back to the chat room. Okay, hey Sawyer, how you been? I watched a real interesting movie this past weekend, Lord of Illusions, starring Scott Bakula and Quantum Leap. Let's see, so that was Lord of Illusions. All right, well, I actually have a Netflix account, so I would watch it if it appeared on there. But otherwise, I don't have any other accounts for watching stuff. If you have a link to it, you want to send it to me, I'll take a look at it. I don't want just I haven't bought movies or for a long time, or online or anything. So I got so much to do with the different projects. I spend a little time watching, some stuff on Netflix, especially I like some of the science fictions on Netflix just to kind of relax by. And well, quantum mechanics, is of course an interesting. Well, we watched a lot of Star Trek when we were in the group, and we saw Star Wars, we saw E.T., we saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind when it came out. We saw Cocoon, and Cocoon was really interesting because Doe bought a boat after we saw Cocoon, which was depicting Next Level members as kind of light beings that were in the shape of a humanoid shape. It's pretty good, and that they weren't sexual. They exchanged love through their minds, and I know well, I don't know, but I think we all maybe sometimes experience that, whether it's with parents or spouses at some points maybe. I don't think like that. Not the way they depicted it. I don't ever say I can have that feeling with anybody. Well, except a little bit. Well, I do have that feeling with T and Do sometimes. Usually when I'm trying to feel, I don't know, it just comes out. I don't know how to tell when it comes, but I also feel that with, I felt that when Nancy Brown told me that her son was among the members of the group, who was her mother, his mother, Alex Odie's mother. David, who I knew as Alex Odie. You know, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I understand the families. I didn't want to say anything because of the families for years. Well, actually, the way I was thinking about it was, the first time I was thinking about talking about it was after 9/11, while I was still driving to work. Well, and even before 9/11 on Long Island, where I was living and working, listening to Howard Stern show. And, he was throwing baloney at naked women's butts and stuff like that on the air. And what a character that guy is. I'd like to meet him. I don't know. I don't care if I meet him, actually. But I would go on his show. I would talk to pretty much anybody about T and Do and what we were taught and how they think about certain things that I heard from them. That's really my purpose now, which I only started these live streams, a week and a half ago, and ended up being, 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people at the time, and considering, how many people would have paid attention to anything I said before that, that's like a waterfall. And so it's kind of, it's encouraging because because there's so many reasons for it now, of course, with the way the world is and the way the politics, and holy smokes, what a mess this place is in. And the way they're trying to brainwash people. I'm sorry, but I may be wrong. I'm going to say that to begin with, based on T and Do, what they might think, because I think this is like Jesus said, it's not necessarily impossible, because I don't know the overview entirely. But I think that looking at human-made carbon dioxide output, CO2, as changing the weather, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the earthquakes, the geologic weather is also the weather. The volcanoes, but even the smaller weather events, the tornadoes, the small ones, whatever, even that, whatever. Well, I know that humans can blow up an atomic bomb that changes the weather, and it changes it for a long time by putting all those particles in there that is the reason why I was losing my teeth so early in life. According to Doe, he said it was in the water of Long Island. I was growing up in the 50s when they were blowing up nuclear bombs underground and above ground and in the water, in the West, in Nevada and California and Utah, I think, and maybe down New Mexico, maybe Arizona, I don't know, all the places. But hundreds of bombs they blew up. And so, and now they're pumping, since you got me on that, you got me, but I came on to that. So now these nuclear reactors are pouring in nuclear radioactivity into the air 24/7, all over the planet, and they're concerned about CO2. As the fact, not even concerned about our health, are they? They're concerned about the end of the world coming because of this. They're not concerned about their own health. I mean, some are, because we are breathing a lot of toxic air in the cities. Yeah, it does take your toll on your vehicle. And we definitely need cleansing of that periodically and as much as possible, all the time, actually. We should be trying to eat, fasting from the things that we know are producing the most toxins in our bodies, and then by just eliminating them for a little while. And Tiendo taught that too, but it was gradual. It was very gradual, and it wasn't until after T left the vehicle that we actually started on the dietary programs. And we fasted on water for 13 days. We fasted on apple juice the fasting on water came actually later, but we first started on an apple juice fast. Before that, we were on a limited diet that was meat in limited amounts. Like we'd have hamburgers sometimes, and we may have had some hot dogs. I don't remember exactly. I don't think we had any fish. Definitely no shrimp. Doe said he threw up in the bathroom once at a social gathering after he ate shrimp cocktail, but that he forced himself to learn to eat it because it was so in vogue. In vogue. You got to do it properly, And that still goes on, I think. Look at the way Melania Trump is. And it was pretty cool that she said, don't pay attention to what I'm wearing. She might be a better president than any of the others on both sides of the coins. I don't know. I mean, Bernie Sanders, with when he started talking about how human-caused global warming was the national security issue, it's like, holy smokes. And right at the same time that Governor Jerry Brown is saying that they're pumping more oil. They're making more profits than ever on the oil. But they're getting them to kick them back now, this carbon tax. So then now they're going to pass that on to the consumers, of course. And so the government has more money from the carbon tax. And what they're doing with it maybe they're using it for solar development. Well, yes, they want, but I think they're using it for their nuclear engines that they're building, trying to come up with ways to have that A-bomb inside a little rocket, without blowing the rocket apart. And they've done it. They have. I think the powering motors, but I don't think they know there's better technology than that because of, I believe, I'm not saying Tiendo said this, but I believe because of the engine that Bob Lazar was taking apart, according to the story. Of course, nowadays you can't know what to believe, but a ways ago, I think you can know that you were getting some real news. And so the more we can study the past on all the UFO subjects, the better, instead of what's happening now. Because what's happening now, that's, if we want to try to find more of the truth in what's being talked about. Because we know that they implanted a lot of misinformation. And so I don't know if those vehicles that they're showing on the screen, but, that are actually alien vehicles, but they could be. Because at this point, they can put anything over there, and then they can say that half the people are going to not watch it, and half the people are going to, that other half are going to think that it's manufactured by the government, and half the people are going to think that it could have been, some other percentage is going to think that it might have been space aliens that manufactured it, but probably nobody is going to think that the level of human, the creators of the planet, manufactured that vehicle, when it might have been possible that it was, in some cases, which I think the Roswell and the Aztec examples of 4 bodies and 18 bodies demonstrates. And it even works with Scripture, because 4 bodies might be related to the 4 living beings that are different than souls. They're more advanced souls. And they might be like equivalent to archangels, or archangels in training, which are like a captain of angels. And when I say angels, I'm talking about captain of messengers, captain of watchers, captain of, like Luciferians were thought to be watchers. And Tiendo taught that watchers was the first step in a task in a lab. So that, like, they described our environment in the houses that we lived in, the mansions that we lived in. They described, like, the kitchen as a laboratory, and that what we were creating was an experiment in that laboratory, the food that we made, and that there was a formula. There were formulas, and the formulas were with representative terms for, at first, to teach us this. They didn't do it for a long time. But at first we had a bulletin board that showed, like, MP for mashed potatoes, plus, they didn't do this, but let's say IC for ice cream. We never did that. Equals body changes, okay? But they did that only for the first week, that we used this thing to show the different menu items, okay? And then because they were trying to train us, but it wasn't training to where, it wasn't training like the way you would think of training a dog, but in a sense it is. You're actually trying to enforce a program. on it, that's a positive program. And in the Old Testament, the way they taught to do that, like even to be positive, to try to be more positive, is to make a positive affirmation. And that's where the spiritualists also got it from. And Norman Vincent Peale, I think, was the name of the human that that might have been an advanced soul, a soul that, well, even potentially could have come from the next level as a preparation for the next level coming with Tian-Do. Could have been that also. Could have been any number of things. Could have also been a space alien that came. The advanced. Well, I'm talking about advanced souls. I'm not, because the Luciferian space alien fallen angels, they were equivalent to the members of the crews of the next level on their spacecrafts. On some of them, the ones that were just students still, so that they could still revert back to human behaviors because of the vehicle they have. So the next level grew a vehicle for them that still had the capacity to become mammalian and actually, I guess, grow a penis and a womb. And because it didn't need those in the next level when they were on the spacecraft before that. But when they broke the rules that were given, because there's definitely some strict rules, and that is, if your job is to observe, then you didn't do anything. You didn't even think except an observational thought. You wouldn't think, I wonder how you could do that better. Well, I don't know if you would think that. It was okay to think that. I shouldn't say. I don't know. I'm going too far with it in the territory that I don't have anything to back it up with. And anyway, I forgot where I was going again. Jeez. Where should I go back to? Mirror, mirror on the wall. Go back to the chat room. So it's good that I do that, right? Now, we never watched Quantum Leap. Did you? No, I never heard them talk about Quantum Leap. I don't know when that movie was. I left them when I was in 1994. And so Sawyer liked the butterfly effect. Okay? I'm not... The butterfly effect. Okay, I'll... Oh, well, the butterfly effect that Tian-Do were teaching was that... I wanted to talk about this before I started streaming. And because of one of the questions from the past live stream to relate science to Tian-Do, and I tried to add a little more of that in here instead of just, rattling on and on about spiritual subjects or religious things, like the Book of Revelations. But the records that were brought by the religions. But so Tian-Do, when they first came public, they said that the human kingdom was equivalent to the humans, the biology and the mental biology as well, which is the genetics, and is the in the human kingdom can actually stimulate a change in the body, changes in the physical body, in the organs and things, so that it creates a metamorphosis and puts into motion different aspects of the body that can actually change, well, that actually need a final ingredient. Now I'm going into Jesus' teachings. That need a final ingredient from the next level on a spacecraft, probably. Or the spacecraft could be down on the ground. It can go right over the person. That's the physical human vehicle that's in that, with the soul that's in that body, and give them something that enables them to then go back and mingle with those that they were mingling with. In the case of Jesus, the women that first found him, and or actually Mary that ran into him when he just came out of the tomb. Well, not when he came out of the tomb, but when the rock was moved away, and then he showed up. Which, he could have just changed his body so that he knew that she could see him. And when he was in a physical body at this point, I mean, it was made more physical, I guess, maybe, or the next level somehow enabled it so that it could eat, and which I don't know if that was something they did to it biologically or not. They could have installed, a stomach in it, so that it could eat and prove that he was physical, and have him be touched. You could feel him that he was a physical, and even they left even the scars in his palms, so that it was evidence to the disciples that he was physical, and he even said that I'm not a spirit, I'm flesh. He says a spirit is flesh. No, a human. I'm flesh and bone. I think he said that. Or maybe I'm misremembering that part from another part. And then he hung around with them for a while. And the other thing that he was able to do was hover above the earth or above the sea. So I don't know how fast he could move. I don't know. But appearing and disappearing and then hovering, I guess if you can hover, I guess you can stay one place even if there's some wind. Well, yeah, so he hovered. The way the story goes is that he hovered over the boat, or over the water over the boat. No, over the water next to the boat. And he called Peter to him. So, so his body was made into a hovercraft, the hovercraft Jesus. But it's hovering with, I wonder if they give him some of that element that Bob Lazar was back engineering and said he found in that engine that was taken out of one of the crash flying saucers. That Oppenheimer hired him to back engineer because the previous person that was trying to do it died from radioactive poisoning when he did it. So he was more prepared this time. I guess, I don't know what they did for him, but that's the way he told the story. And that's the element that I suspect, that George Bush said that he would hope they would find when they were trying to start a project to colonize the Earth, the Moon, and Mars. Both. And he said He said it at a inaugural address, maybe the last one that he gave. I'm not sure if it was the last one or not, or the next to the last one, but it was one of the end ones, I think. And he said, he said, I think perhaps we will find an energy source that would boggle the mind. Perhaps we will find an energy source that will boggle the mind. And I already knew about Bob Lazar at that point, so I thought, holy shit. You're going to find an energy source that Bob Lazar, you're looking for that. And then I thought, okay, the particle accelerators, they're trying to make new elements. Because they want to try to make that ingredient, or anything that's close to it. I don't think they've gotten anywhere yet. But I might be wrong about that. You know, of course, they're not going to tell us for a long time, and because they want to hide their secrets. So who knows? Maybe they can make that ingredient now, and so now that's why the flying saucers that we see now can be maybe produced by humans and space aliens that had them. And so that would be the miracles in Revelation chapter 13. Wonders and miracles. And signs also. They can make into signs, but it's a sign of the beast instead of a sign of the... Because the next level is not in it. It could, they'll... they're also, wanting to learn how to live in an environment with none of the life force environments, because maybe they can build a spacecraft that can, look at, they got the Voyager going there, it's still going, I think. One that was sent out, I don't know, was it 60 years ago or 70 years ago? That they still get a little beep from, I guess, to indicate that it's still going. Right, they might be able to go for years, and not encounter anything, or encounter things, but so they can send, right, like the movie with, what's her name? Where she went into the black hole. Contact. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Happy is the one who seizes. Well, I didn't finish the thing on the butterfly, and that is that. Angels were depicted as having wings. So there you go. When a soul actually completes their metamorphosis by actually leaving the human kingdom behind, then they get their wings. But they have to do it only in the next level away. And so, but the human kingdom prepares them for that way by all these other pathways that humans take to get to the highest truth. And the highest behavior and ways is part of the highest truth. Not killing each other is one of the highest ways that all the religions seem to agree on. Right? Even though they justify it then for murderers or people that are political dissidents. Maybe they all don't agree on it. I'm not such a theologian that I'm not a theologian at all. I've studied enough to feel like Doe gave me the hints of what to study, so I can't go wrong with that. And that is the Buddhist. He said that the Buddhism seemed to show the most similarities with the Next Level's teachings, where he was teaching to remove yourself from everything, the world, separate yourself from the world. And the Buddha went out, and he had nothing to stimulate his sensory perception. He was just in a cave. So he's just with his thoughts the whole time, I guess fasting. And, but see, that's not the way we actually, that's teaching the overview is important, but then the Buddha went and left that and then said that the middle way is the path. And so, in other words, you can have all experiences on both sides of the river that you're riding, the river of spirit. And that is the genetic branch of the human tree, of the human mind tree. And mind is equivalent to spirit, the terminology according to Tian-Do. And so we're all potentially advancing that, no matter what we're doing. And we're potentially also falling back from that, from what we can be. And we're also potentially learning our lessons and keep on going forward with what we want to become. And if we want to become famous and we put the energy into it, go to all the places where people are trying to do that, and study hard or work hard on our talents and skills and things. Maybe we can produce a company or whatever, and we can do all that. Like a young person that I know said that she wanted to get to a place to where she could say, okay, put that on my schedule, or that doesn't really look good there, to the crew that are working for her. And it reminded me of the book that Hillary Clinton wrote that somehow I ended up with for free. And it said on the back that I want to run something. I always wanted to run something. That's all about our ego, that we want to run something. That means we want to be able to be the dictator of something in order to float our boat. And that's exactly what the Luciferian space aliens want from humans. That can attract a lot of attention and become a spokesperson, for where the technology is going, especially. And also where the spirituality is going as well. Because there's two things that the Luciferian space alien fallen angels, I believe, that Tian-Do taught wanted. And that is to get off the planet before they're forced to go underground again or recycled. Or to this is a combined effort of getting new souls for their own functions on the planet. And although maybe, or for them to move into, when the current vehicle they have dies, because they don't have eternal vehicles. And those are the vehicles that we would see depicted in the, some of the accounts, Betty and Barney Hill, probably, and maybe not. Maybe that was Next Level. I don't know for sure, but certainly the ones that were all scary with those big eyes, like Travis Walton experienced, and maybe Whitley Strieber experienced. Well, maybe he exaggerated that. Maybe that was really Next Level, because Doe had us try to contact Whitley Strieber, and we did. We talked to Whitley Strieber as a twosome. Actually, I was the partner of Dan Sodi when he was talking. He was the primary, I was the secondary. Because in the labs, we also had primaries and secondaries. And the observers actually, after a little while of observing, then moved into tasks where they were doing the measuring and, and doing everything everybody else was doing. But there were overseers also in the labs, and the overseers were like June Odie and Chuck Odie were always overseers. I remember for a long time, and looking back, I can see how more advanced they were than I was in my vibration, my behavior. So it was the women of the Heaven's Gate group that were the most advanced. Liv Odie, Jan Odie, I believe, June Odie, Chuck Odie, and Lug Odie might be an exception to that. Lug Odie might have actually been, I don't know why I think this, but I kind of feel like, I have reasons for it. I can't say that Doe told me one way or the other. I didn't have a dream. Doe did give me some dreams on things, but most of those were just for my own behavior and my own purpose, the sake of helping me keep going with the task of trying to bring awareness of what seems to be, or what I hope is, the most accurate translation and interpretation of most of the Book of Revelations, or part of the Book of Revelations at least, and what Jesus said in the red letters. Because those are the things that Tien Do taught were, they said the red letter edition was what we could trust, because they said the Next Level worked very hard to make sure that what Jesus said in those Gospels was true. But that didn't mean that we couldn't consider other things that were attributed to Jesus in, like, the lost books of the Bible, or the Nag Hammadi library, or the Dead Sea Scrolls that that provided materials that revealed other teachings that weren't in the Gospels as plain as that, and like becoming a eunuch was actually in the alternative materials too, in the Enoch materials from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Some of the members actually did things to disable their testicles. And when Doe heard that some of them might have been using rocks to crush their testicles, he like cringed. He was like, whoa. It's like, he didn't say anything, he just cringed. Couldn't, anyway, he wasn't saying one way or the other, whether he would have supported that, had they been asking for how we can eliminate our sexuality. But it showed that the Dead Sea Scrolls showed that was being taught early on, even though there was a debate, of course, there always is, right? between the Moses camp, the strict Moses camp, became like the Republicans with being off track. The Pharisees are the Republicans today in the Roman Empire, of the repeat Roman Empire of the United States of America. Which is a combination, of course, with the Roman Empire and the Egyptian, I think, I suspect. But it might be just the Buddhist, or it might be the Hindu. You know, I don't really know. I think the Egyptian and Babylon. No, the Babylonian. I'm sorry, the Babylonian. That's the that came before the Egyptian. I think was the other strain of humans that was brought to the United States that Jesus taught about. He didn't teach about that directly, but Doe taught about it because he said Buddhism I talked about that before, had the characteristics of separation from the world and taking control of our passions, taking control of our vehicles, our human animal vehicles that have those, naturally have those passions. Making mind overrule the body. And so getting on that process, I know there's other places that I really wanted to go to and dot some I's and cross some T's, and I can actually still see them in my mind right now, but it gets you back to the creating the metamorphosis. Each of us can be in a stage of that metamorphosis. 'Cause even if our vehicle doesn't go through enough of that stage to actually change the vehicle physically, we're actually training our mind, our soul. We're actually training our soul to have that program in it. So, because Tiendo talked about how the soul was a chip, like a computer chip, and described it as a pillowcase and also as a and I forget the other thing. I forgot it last time I was talking about this. Wow, I even forget in patterns. Holy shit, am I a robot or what? No. I mean, with the next level, I would want to be a robot, actually. If I really understood what the next level was. Because I know they would not want a robot. The last thing they want, Tiendo said, was a robot. Because they can make robots to do anything they want. But to get a member of the next level like them to work with on their cruise, that's a joy to them. Because they know even if one person is born from a harvest, like we just experienced in 1997, the next level Tiendo said that the next level members in their physical bodies have a celebration for those individuals. That they all gather together. One part of who knows, maybe they go to the tropics. To bask in the sun of the tropics and sip the pina coladas in their next level vehicles. We should actually be great to have some cartooning with this and we can get examples from what Doe gave us in the Transfiguration Diet book right here. Let's see if there's still some video on this. do something else here. Can I do this? Oh, no, I guess not. So I'll just do it, hold it up there. Hopefully that'll be big enough. I've held this up before. It's a Transfiguration diet. So that was produced by Doe and the crew, where part of the crew was just me, like me, a guinea pig. And some of the crew used the Macintosh computer. And the first one that came out. And then Dan Sodi, who left the group before the 1997 event, was the one that drew these diagrams. I don't know if you can read that, but he. So what it is for anybody that doesn't have the video in front of them, if they want to know, is it shows a alien that looks like it's just like a stick figure alien, but he's got a head, a round head, and like an oval head. Actually, it's actually more pear-shaped head, and he's got like these goggles on of some sort, like glasses, these big like sunglasses, and he's wearing like a 10-gallon hat, like he's from Texas, and he's got in his hands soy sauce and a fork in his other hand, and he's got something that I believe is salad, maybe, down there. And then he's got garlic oil, and I can't even read that. Well, I got a magnifying glass here. And cayenne pepper. Right, garlic oil and cayenne pepper. And then next to him, there's a woman wearing like a waitress's kind of shirt, and she's wearing like a six-pointed eagle on her, over her shirt, on her chest, and it actually looks like it's got more appendages, actually. I'm being more detailed than I need to be, I know, but what the heck. And then there's a guy, a short-haired person. I don't know if it's a guy, and I guess, I don't know. I mean, the woman's wearing, I guess, I don't know if it's a woman. It doesn't make any difference. I'm sorry, I'm being a jerk when I try to be multi-gender conscious, which I don't need to be, try to be. I have no gender bias that I'm aware of. But, and he's saying in the bubble, the woman is saying, gee, that looks good, and the guy is saying, interesting. So it's nothing, earth-shattering, but the diet is earth-shattering, actually. I used the diet to cure my Lyme's disease. And I was, one leg was, I couldn't bend it at the knee. And had pain while I was sleeping, so that I couldn't sleep unless I tried to take something for it. I didn't take anything. I didn't take any drugs for anything. But I just went on this diet right away when it flared up. And I didn't go on it 100%. I still kept, because the diet is actually, it's called a mucusless diet, and it started with Dr. John Christopher's diet. that is the first diet we tried after T left the vehicle. And it started with a 3-day apple juice fast on fresh squeezed apples. And then one of these days, if I stop talking and someone gives me a bunch of money, I'm going to print this, I'm going to have this transcribed so I can, or I'm going to publish my own version in some other way so that it's, well, I don't need to publish the version. It's on the web. People can buy it. I don't need my own version, but I want to have it digitally so I can give it away to people. I would pay if I had the money for it, for people to have it if they wanted it. I do have a little bit of it on my website, and I can send information about what the diet was if anybody wants it. So send me an email to SawyerHG, as in Heaven's Gate, at yahoo.com, and I'll write it in here. Okay, let me go back to the chat room. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume. This is from I do not permit, this is from Jebus_GT. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. Timothy 2:12. Yeah, I'm glad you put that there. Because I think Timothy, some people think Timothy was kin to Paul. Or not kin, maybe not kin, but even Paul. Some people have said that Timothy might be Paul, another name that he was using. And Paul was very off the track with his putting down women into their places and assuming the role of prophet and an apostle. He was not assigned that task by Jesus. He wasn't taught to do that task. I'm not saying he didn't do the best he could with the circumstance that happened to him. I'm not saying it was malicious, anything he did or said. I don't think so. I don't think so. So, he might be back now, and if he was, he has the same opportunity everybody else has to grow closer to the next level through Tea and Dough. That's the only way to grow closer to the next level now is through Tea and Dough. Jesus said he was coming back with a new vehicle. And but I'm not going to go there right now in case there's some objection to what I'm saying. I know there is. I know I'm not saying necessarily with Jebus there, but with other people that are. It's very when we say I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man, she must be quiet. If that's something that you are saying as if you're saying that, I think you need to open your mind a little bit and ask the Heavenly Father as far as you can reach to for help to see more than you see right now, and even ask if you want to, even ask if what you should pay attention to, help you steer you to where you're going to learn more about what you're saying. Because the the reason the United States got equal rights for women was because it was fought for, because the next level helped those women stand up for themselves. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was a part of the student tasks of the 4 living beings to do. This it really gives Jesus a bad name when people, I'm not talking about you, Jevis, because I don't know anything about you and what you believe and what you think. And so I mean no disrespect in what I said, but I'm just addressing that scripture. And if you are believing that scripture to be 100% accurate as a depiction of the way we should be now, that there's more to learn about that. I will say that much. But that's the reason the Lord came as a woman, in a woman's body this time. Now I'm talking about the Father. And I can prove that to anybody that, well, I can't prove it, but I can provide a lot of evidence. Okay? I can't prove it because you can't prove anything to anybody, really. Like, even if they see something miraculous, over time it fades. And they don't even necessarily know how to interpret it. And they might think, it was something they ate, or, so that's never proof. I mean, what it did to Paul, it seems like something happened to Paul. I don't know that maybe he could have made that story up with that Ananias that he was appearing to work with, who was like I don't know if it was the same Ananias that was the priest Ananias. I haven't been able to figure that out. If anybody has a keyword or a scripture that I can look at to see if I can understand that better, I'd like to know it. But I don't trust anything that's not in the red letters that Jesus said. Even things that in the Gospel of Thomas are great, and give me some hints about some things, I believe. But I didn't. I wouldn't. I wouldn't repeat them as if they were gospel according to Jesus, because even though only because of what Tiendo said, and I believe in them 100%. So. That's the reason I feel that way. I guess that's my prerogative. But I'm going to go back to the chat, I guess. Well, yeah, those. You're just talking to Jebus, so I won't interfere with that. Because of intoxication, Lot perceived not when his firstborn, and the following night his younger daughter lay with him. Okay, wait a minute. I've seen this one before. Yeah, that was, I guess, at that time, I don't know let's see, when did Lot was, at that time it was before the Exodus, so I don't know if the next level had given those rules yet to the people in, I mean, they were only to swear off of strong drink when they took the vow of what was his name? Nazareth. The vow of Nazareth was to abstain from grape juice, but grape juice could have easily meant fermented grape juice, because they certainly could have been fermenting it in the sun. I don't have any doubts they would be. So it was considered to be like taking a vow. It was a vow, and actually, when you took that vow, you didn't. So lying with his daughter, even though that's a sin now for us to do, and has been a sin for a long time, ever since the Moses commandments talked about it, but wasn't necessarily a sin then, because a sin is based on what the older members give us to work up to learn to make our behavior. If we're not taught, then we don't learn these things. It's not natural for the human vehicle to restrain from having sex with anybody. I don't think. Unless the next level puts that in the genetic code. Maybe they do, to some degree. So that people are born with a certain signal that goes off if we start to influence the younger generations, which I think there's some evidence of that too, even in the Genesis with was it Jacob or was it Isaiah that Jacob he did something with. Well, then you had Sarah. I'm not going to go into all that history, but you had Sarah, the wife of Abraham, who had a baby when she was in her 90s, right? I don't know. I guess that doesn't relate to this, of course, but the next level's in charge of growing the garden, so they own us all. They own every vehicle and all the materials. We know that humans. I haven't heard any human saying that they brought this earth here. Yeah. And yet, how can any human say they know exactly the way the earth came about? Even generally. Okay, Big Bang, fine, okay? But that doesn't say much about how the earth came to be what it is now. Just think of all the programming that goes into these software packages that are running all these visual images and back and forth. How many man hours have been involved in all that? And yet the earth is like so much bigger than that it's incomprehensible that it didn't require just as many and more man hours. Of course, but hours measured in different formats off the earth. And so but laying with his firstborn, if that's what they're saying, is I would have to look at the translation of that. I don't know. That's going pretty crazy. I mean, because why would the next level foster that? But the Luciferian space aliens, they'll foster anything with a human being that they can do to get that human being off the track. And the more a next level soul is growing towards the next level, the bigger the attacks are, so that they can so that so that basically if the soul that's put in that vehicle can work against it. Okay? Now, so they're going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes. But the next level are the ones that are saying what those mistakes can be and what they can't be. In order for them to keep on helping you. And by our asking for help, that we don't know that he wasn't like freaking out because he got so drunk that he did those things and he was ready to kill himself because of that, or chop his penis off. That's what he did. That doesn't mean just because he's in the Bible doesn't mean he's a saint. I mean, he was allowed to get out of the city when the next level was going to wipe it out, Sodom and Gomorrah. So that just means that the next level sent him a communication, those two individuals, and also potentially mental communication in his dreams or whatever, that would help him take over that vehicle in order to go out of the city. And so he pleaded with the Lord to see if there was somebody in the city that was worth saving. And he thought there was. So the Lord let him do that. And so he was able to get a few members of his family out of the city. But that experience also, with the next level, who knows? Maybe he was drinking because he was having these crazy, visions and who knows what. The next level has all kinds of ways they can influence a human vehicle, and without burning out their circuits. And so sometimes they do it through the dreams. But the dreams can be very specific, and it can feel exactly real, and you can remember every word in the dream. I don't know that I could anymore because I'm old and decrepit. but I mean, if you have a good vehicle, you could probably remember a lot. Some vehicles can probably remember a real lot. And the next level might be able to even help a vehicle remember a real lot by doing a little surgery on them when they don't even know it at night. They could be physically right next to us with different devices that can help the brain recover from whatever deterioration it suffered from, and from from all the behaviors that we indulge ourselves in, and the toxins and the vaccinations and the radioactive particles. So I'm not going to go any more with that, but I'm gonna enter in here because David, I don't think that's true that you would never made it as a member, never make it as a Heaven's Gate because I had too many temptations and trials and tribulations. Are you not having experiences in your life that you're trying to improve upon? Are you not seeking to learn new things? And I don't know if you're open to the existence of creators. And it's like, in some form or another, trying to do right, trying to be a humanitarian is a good way of showing somebody that you have some next level colors. When the older members aren't here, Doe said that's about the best anybody can do. But they weren't saying that what being here, what length of time that covered for. Because they're here as long as their information is still true here. As long as we have access to what actually was said. And that's going to probably go away at some point. And then people will have whatever they took off the internet from it in the past. And so for however long that lasts, for whatever communities have access to that information, will be however long they have access to the the total truth, and it's going to be deteriorating the whole time simultaneously, to where the word Heaven's Gate won't mean anything. I mean, it'll mean cult, but now it means religious groups, specific ones that are named Heaven's Gate, and all around the world. And I think in Africa I saw one, and I think there's one that's based in Southeast Asia. And so it ends up, and then commercialized, like by Lil Uzi Vert. Now when he's using that, it's commercializing it, and basically that's diluting it down. But at the same time, it becomes a little like signal. It's a little pointer, a little seed even, or a little jolt from, that can make somebody inquisitive. Okay, he got that artwork from there. I'm going to want to see what it was talking about. Go on the site, look at it, read a little bit, So it's a positive for the next level. It's all a positive for next level. There's nothing on the planet that, they didn't say nothing. So I shouldn't say that, even though it might be nothing. But what Tiendo said is that the next level is very, very good at turning negatives into positives. And so that means they're teaching that too. So when we have a negative situation, if we ask the highest source we can reach for how to make that into a positive, how they would have us make it into a positive would be a higher form of asking. Because, but if you don't ask it that way, I shouldn't say higher form of asking. That's not true. That's not true. But we end up going into a higher form of asking, but it doesn't mean that that's a higher form of asking for me than what somebody else might ask the same question of the next level about. Because my higher form of asking has to be more on par with what I'm asking for, not the way I ask it. Because the next level works with each individual separately. And I'm not talking about me just as an individual. I'm talking about me as the same as anybody else. And Heaven's Gate isn't gone. Doe left the gate open. He said it would be open for a little while. But the last time, I never remember the next level, said that the gate was open a little while, was when Jesus said, it was translated to be, in a little while I'll see you, talking to his students. He said, in a little while you won't see me, and then he said, in a little while you will see me. and then he left his body, and then he actually came back. Okay, so some people think that that's what he was talking about. But that was in his prophecies of his return. Some people think it was when he came back with his body changed from the metamorphosis that went through it. And the metamorphosis is actually what took place during the Transfiguration Mountain event. I believe, and Doe said that. Actually, Doe said that, and so I don't just believe it. I feel like I know it because of that. And but I mean, there's evidence of it as well, so that I can also believe it, so that other people can believe it, even if they don't know that they know it because Doe knows it. And I was programmed with it. That's why I know it. Okay, so I had all that programmed, the benefit of all that. I was just a fish in the sea that was caught from the human kingdom. It just happens to be me, the fish in the sea. And so I didn't earn it or anything. I was just a vehicle that was equivalent to the vehicles that could be used for the level of growth that some needed to have when they were returning. And so they pick the vehicles at birth. So I guess they're picking the vehicles based on what the parents were doing in their lives, to get an understanding about what things they would have to work against. And I guess my father must have been a sex addict. I didn't know it. Not that I'm a sex addict, but in a sense I am still a sex addict. Whenever I give in to sexuality, for me that's being a sex addict to any degree, to stimulate an orgasm, which I have to say I do sometimes. And so, which I'm not proud of, but so I know what it is to feel addicted. I started to feel like I was getting addicted to smoking pot a while ago, and I was able to cut it back and stop it for a while. And I stopped it when I was a kid, too. I'm not a kid, but a young person. A young adult, actually. So and then I lied about it when I went across the Canadian border to get back to my house where I lived in Canada. And the border guard wouldn't let me through the border because I said that I used to smoke marijuana, but I don't anymore. I haven't for a long time. Because I quit after my girlfriend had a paranormal experience on marijuana. She had like a trip, like an acid trip on marijuana. And it kind of put me in it, even though I was a big smoker at the time. But, so it wasn't like the kind of weed that you get now, where you can get some powerful stuff, I know, to some minds. But in those days, I wasn't aware of the kind of stuff that I use now sometimes. And I know T and Doe weren't fond of marijuana. But what Doe taught and what Jesus taught is the same thing, that all our sins can be forgiven us, even multiple times. And the other day, I actually did ask the Next Level for help to not smoke marijuana again. You know, that day when I felt like I wanted to, because I was kind of repeating it. Because for some reason, I feel like I want to do these broadcasts more when I'm under the influence, a little bit. But very little under the influence. I go too far and I get too spaced out. But anyway, talking about marijuana, but that's, and I didn't smoke that night. So getting the help was helpful. So if I kind of remind myself to, I think I said it. Maybe I said it 7 times. Because that's the 7. That's where that came from. And that's why that's such a popular number in the Old Testament and the New Testament, or in the Book of Revelation, because it has to do with taking an oath, which was the Nazarene oath of saying I don't want to drink out grape juice. I don't want to drink the grape juice. Saying that 7 times was to imprint it upon yourself. T and Doe talked about that as imprinting it upon our computer. Because the object of our mission, the mission of the souls that were coming back, like Jesus said was going to happen, and that T and Doe said were all the souls have come back, all the souls that had any significant relationship with the Next Level since the start of the civilization are back now. And some of them are off track, some of them are on their path, whatever their path is. But all of them will be on a path towards the next level, ultimately, if they keep on seeking. If they don't, if they're not completely satisfied by what they have already. And that's why becoming a teacher is very intoxicating. Because it keeps you, it replaces what the energy you get from other people believing in you, can replace your desire to please the next level and keep on growing for your own growth. Like by having better control over my vehicle, to not use the marijuana. It's not that the marijuana is evil, but it becomes evil when we have to depend on it in order to be who we are, the most honest self we have, all the time, and not needed. But you know, on behalf of Lot, in that Genesis that he became intoxicated, that led him to those bad behaviors. It might have been the best he can do. So we can't judge ourselves, but we can keep on trying to correct the things that we feel are bad behavior, and the reasons why we would allow ourselves to get intoxicated would be an example of wanting to allow ourselves to have behavior that's not going to really be good for us in body and mind, ultimately. I mean, the lower forces of the planet, which would be the Luciferian, space alien, fallen angel souls, and the vehicles they control, and down to the human kingdom vehicles that they control, and the discarnate world of spirits from humans that have died, and all the things that they have come to be in their empires, who are controlled by the space alien souls and one another, and are in battlement with one another as well. Same battles that they had when they were living. They're still repeating the same characteristics. And except for the ones that have some of the mind of the next level in them, that are the other side of the coin, that have degrees of what that other strain has. And so the way Tien Do described the human kingdom was that it was like 12 grades in school. And then in the first 6 grades, you're getting into the human kingdom. So that by the 6th grade, you know, you have to put it in male terms, I guess, you have a beautiful wife, you have but nowadays it would mean the same thing as a beautiful husband. And, you know, you have a career that you want, you can't imagine having anything else. You know, and you're happy, even though you have problems, and you know, and maybe those are the things then that you wish you didn't have the fame for, if you could get rid of the problems that you have. But then sometimes you get intoxicated by having so much, so that it's hard to get out of that. But then you go to rehab, or and that can help with that, or you get impeached, or you get thrown in jail, or you have a divorce, or a child dies, a parent dies, siblings, whatever, relationships, friends go away, friends turn on you, competitions, jealousies, all these things are for lessons. If we didn't have those problems, there would be no growth in the human kingdom, and the human kingdom would stagnate. And the human kingdom is designed to be a stepping stone into the kingdom above human. It wasn't to be the last step in growth and life. And so it's like the way we all really enjoy being on the internet is you can imagine being that way all the time without having to work. Like a job slinging mud or coding computers, that all becomes kind of boring after a while. To me it did. And hard to tune into when you get away from it. Well, I mean, I can, but I don't think I could do a good job now. I didn't even think I did a good job while I was coding most of the time. I was good as a troubleshooter, solving problems and developing software for that. I think I did that the best. And designing systems I was terrible at, I think. I didn't have the overview. But anyway, what movies, let's see the next one here. What movies did you watch in the classroom? What movies were most important to you and why? I went through that before. I rattled off a bunch. I'll do it again. But there was E.T. and the first one I remember. No, the first one was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And then there was, I think, E.T. after that. Maybe another one like Heavens Can't Wait. Heaven Can Wait. I think it's Heaven Can Wait, maybe. Starman. We watched The Sound of Music a bunch of times because Teendale felt like The Next Level helped with that to give them clues about their task. And The Next Level potentially helped with all these movies that I'm talking about to help us wake up and other people wake up too to the possibilities of extraterrestrial life, and all those thoughts were given to the kingdom, starting with the 1800s primarily, even though they were given before that in the 1500s, apparently, or talked about even during the wise men, seeing the lights of the comets and things like that. So Next Level's been working with the kingdom for a long time with all this, so that we would have visuals of their reality. Clouds of light, whirlwinds of fire, chariots of fire, to identify us with horses. In the sense we are, we can be horses to the next level. Vehicles being horses that were wild in the human kingdom. And but the next level comes along with their information, and then by that information they kind of are corralling us. It's the same as like Jesus was saying, a fisher of men. Because the next level gives the chip of information and the programs to a whole bunch of vehicles. Who knows how many? I don't know how to say. But they're depicted as 144,000. So, if they're spread out everywhere, I don't know how many that is per capita. It's probably, who knows how it's spread out, but they could have 144,000 times 144,000 that they actually give out, and it could be only 144,000 that, which that becomes a number of that yield the harvest. It doesn't become an exact number anymore to the next level, because Tiendo taught that the experiments were variable in that regard. They said the experiments, they know how to grow the garden very well, but and so they don't do this. I mean, they're always trying to improve upon it, but they don't improve upon what works. They improve upon when they see problems, and that's all according to their judgment, of course. And so that's what someone has in store. But did I lose it again? So when the next level comes closer, they are stimulating the growth of all life forms, Tiendo taught. And that's literally closer, physically closer. They have a physical spacecraft that can be right on top of the planet. That the members of the next level that are on that spacecraft and the chambers that are in that spacecraft and the compartments that are in that spacecraft can be out of our reach. And they can make it so that humans can't go through those areas. Or maybe they can make it so that they produce new pathways where the humans fly through those areas, for instance. Perhaps. I don't know. That just came to me just now as a possibility. Tiendo didn't say that. So, T taught that the next level was present in the hospitals a lot with their physical presence. And the physicality, I'm not talking about dense physicality necessarily, but more like the wind, if you were to touch it, I think, I suspect. I don't know that for a fact. I gotta get a drink of water. I think I gotta finish. We're talking about movies. How the next level used movies. I went to that conversation instead, and I think that's a better conversation to have. I mean, I have shared. If the beginning of this, I don't know, if you want to go through it all again. But I mentioned a bunch of other movies, but I just I'm just not feeling that well right now. So I watch Cuffs and Collars. I smoke DMT to tickle the pineal gland, son. Okay? That higher level. My vehicle is broken, bro. Hello. Did Doe and T ever talk about physics, like the science of star fusion, gravitational orbits, or anything? Well, they said there were highways in the heavens. And so I wondered if those were like black holes. They didn't talk about them. But then we saw the movie Contact. But I don't remember Doe talking about it, but I related it to that. When I saw Contact, that they said that there were highways in the heavens. But they didn't sit around, just telling us stuff. They always had short and sweet little things to say. A sentence here about that kind of thing would be included in everything else they had to say. Because they were mostly teaching us about the how to take control of these vehicles. Because they don't want anybody on their spacecrafts that they can't be trusted. It's just like being hired by a corporation. They don't want to hire somebody that they're going to invest a lot in and is not going to abuse it or, not use it. I guess there's some that could get to the next level because I guess they can grow slower. So, that's fine. And other members want to grow as fast as they can. And there's not competition about it. But even if there was, it wouldn't be a bad, I don't think there's a competition about it. I don't know, I haven't been to the next level, so. But they taught there wasn't competition, so. See, now I'm starting to ramble. Listening to other voices in my head. We can all be broken. We don't have to stay broken. Hello. Did Doe and T ever talk about physical? We're going through that one already. Doe felt like the moon was pulled here, or placed here, after the Earth was designed. Or partially, whatever. They were schools, Captain B. Dick and Major Shaved Balls. All right, now you're going to get me. I shouldn't really repeat those words. You should listen to my daughter's rap. Holy smokes. I bet some of you all would like that. I mean, there's no holds barred. Right, no holds barred. Hey, that's a good joke. Schooled by. Hello, Sawyer. Enjoy when you interact with the chat. I hope you continue to interact with the chat. Okay, I'll do that a little more. What about dimensions and string theory? Well, dimensions, Tiendo said at one point that the next level was like another dimension. But they had control over our dimension. Because they could control what we could see and what we could touch and everything. They can control everything about us if they want to. I mean, I'm not saying that they can control our, our fingers, and I don't know about that. I don't know. I know the Luciferians want to do that. I mean, in an abstract way, they can control by the programming. So if they can program your mind to want to do something, then they're controlling you. So I guess, yes. But we're also controlled by the spirits that we draw to us, which are programs. It's the programs of what those spirits became while they were in the human kingdom. So the spirit world is then again that other dimension, another dimension of that dimension. Because not only can you not see it, you can't feel it either. But it's frequency based. And there's modules, programs that are running around, and the whole environment of the Earth is an electromagnetic field. And it happens to be at frequencies that the spirits can run against, the same way that software runs against the operating systems and of the computer system, of the computers, the hardware. So I guess the spirit world would be like the firmware, because it can't change anymore, where the software can still change by changing their data input and reducing their distractions on any task. I guess then the vehicle has focus. Which that's where people use meditation for focus, and they also to be positive. People use meditations to feel positive. I was asked that question before. So that's all. So also thoughts have frequency value, existence, frequency existence, and Tiendo used to. They told us about a little game that, well, I read about it actually, that the students of Tiendo played, that I didn't play this game with them, but I knew about the process when Tiendo first explained it to us. And they said that they described it as they could go down a cereal aisle, for instance, or an aisle in the grocery store, and they could concentrate on one particular cereal. They saw this was happening when they would pick up a box of cereal, and then they would go down the aisle a little more, and then for some reason they needed to turn back, and they would see somebody walking down the aisle, and then see them stop right at that same spot where they were, and look at that same item, and so they ended up in the classroom doing that as a little joke, looking at something and then watching and then hiding, I guess, or just being subtle in another part of the store and seeing if somebody went up to that, and I guess they said they saw that happen. They demonstrated it. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do with the spirits. And the spirits may be the carriers of those thoughts. I don't know how that works exactly. They didn't talk about it that I was aware of. But I believe it's similar to, I suspect it's similar to the way that you have audio frequencies riding on top of a carrier wave of frequencies in communications on networks and TVs, and so that the TV signal is separate, so they can split it out when they get it in the studio or wherever it is where they're splitting it out. The way we're seeing images now is a video wave that's on top of a carrier wave. I think that's the way it works, or maybe that's only that way during remote transference of through the what the transformers are sending out through the antennas to all cell phones. I don't know if it's the same thing within the system. If the different, yeah, it is the same thing, because it's different fluctuations of the computer on the chips, which are the elements of the earth. That give you different bit rates, and break it down to, it used to be 8 bits a character, I think it was, when I started with computers. All right, I was going. My signal here is not working. Oh, really? I remember. it's still sentient info faintly. It's still sentient info faintly. Faintly sentient? I don't know why it would be just faintly sentient. Are we sentient beings? Well, that's probably used as a slang now. I'm taking it too literally. All right, maybe you're expressing that poetically, or all right. Well, I guess that's saying you jive with it, right? Or cool. It's slightly interesting to you, maybe that's what it is. Okay, I don't know if I got that right, but you can let me know if you want to. Oh, sending. I spend all that time on sentient, right? And you said it's still sending into faintly. It's still sending into faintly. I probably lost the reference to that. Sorry. Hillary is all about the ego. Yeah, a lot of us. I know I've got an ego demon. You can tell the difference of when, I mean, whenever you're thinking of yourself as, hot stuff in some way, it's not that it's bad. It's that it doesn't help us really. Well, then again, it does help us if our job is to go out on stage or something, or even any job, I guess, where we have to be confident. In the military, you've got to be confident about what you're doing. Otherwise, the people around you are gonna, think you're not reliable, you're not trustworthy, you're not capable, and you shouldn't be there then. So I take it back. It's not just rich and famous or that that I believe need have an ego that benefits them. Every human is egotistical to some degree. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that's the case as far as I know. I always try to stay I always try to stay away from absolutes. How's that for what do you call that? Forgot the word, what you call that in the language. Every human is okay. Escaping that completely would be difficult. Yeah, well, T and Do's program did a pretty good job of it. Because it was all about pleasing the older members. I mean, if you didn't want to be there, you weren't there. And T and Do didn't make it easy to be there. They kept on getting rid of people that weren't cutting the mustard. It was definitely, and that bar kept on growing. So they made it like harder and harder for some. And but they didn't do that by I'll give you an example. But first, you got to get a drink of water. Yeah, I've been talking with with XF. I'm not going to try to speak for him. I don't have any problem with, but I've been trying to. Uh, well, I was actually going to talk about it, but no, I don't feel right about it because that's kind of gossipy. Actually, next level would consider that gossipy for two students to talk about another student. Thinking of you all as fellow students with me, in this chat for the moment. I'm a student also. So, and so is XF, I believe. But in the next in Tiendo's camp, I was going to talk about the ego part of reducing our ego, but it reminds me when I'm getting tired. I'm not thinking as clearly as I was before. Well, it's only 2 hours and 41 minutes I've been talking. So, I mean, do I have an excuse to get tired? I don't know if I want to talk about that now anyway. Sawyer, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I would think that the next level would be more powerful than the Luciferians. It just seems to me that if they would make sure information was available, seems to me that if they would make sure information was available, well, that's certainly not disrespectful. I just want to let you know that I'm not. I don't have. I have a kind of a hard shell, so you can and everything's good to talk about. But I would also think. Well, yes, the next level is they're totally powerful over the Luciferians. There's no question about it. But they're actually intentionally allowing the Luciferians to stay on the earth in order to present us with options to grow towards them or towards them, or towards the next level or towards the Luciferians in our minds. Like Tiendo taught that there was only two types of mind in the human kingdom. There's next level mind, and there's misinformation, which is Luciferian mind, lower forces mind. And those are all the same thing. Because Luciferians, according to Tiendo, are human equivalents, where next level members are above human, evolutionarily, a step above human. So that's why they talked about it in the Bible as a chasm of difference between the two. And so they set up the civilization because the Earth had previous civilizations on it, according to Tiendo. And they didn't say how many, but they believed there was a number of them, not just one. And so that's the way they said things. They didn't have everything was in ranges when it came to times and numbers, and because they're so different than us. the way we think. And in more finite ways we think, because we have a finite existence. Anyway, so because they're providing the Luciferians because they don't want to have new souls that are grown to the equivalent of where the Luciferians had grown to in their studentship, to make the same mistakes the Luciferians made. And they don't want anybody in their kingdom that would make the mistakes that the Luciferians made. So that's how they improved their program. So they don't need any new members. It's their joy to provide this because they know they exist. They know that they have many times more. It's like a human looking at, an anthill, and knowing there's a lot more that goes on in the human kingdom that those ants could grow to become. It's really, I don't know if, the comparison is better with dogs, actually. That a human is more like a dog in comparison to, in relationship to a human as a human is to a next level member. Even the youngest next level member has that relationship that's different. So each member of the next level is actually, compared to a human, a god. Because they have that overview. They know what your whole lifespan can pass before them. To them, it's just, they say a day is like 1,000 years. To human kingdoms going through 1,000 years, and to them it's just a day. Because their time frame is events are their time. So one can imagine that they know this comet is going to come around every 78 years. So that's an event to them that triggers the tasks that they schedule to happen along the path of that comet. Might be that comet's going to just go right near a planet, and in its wake, all those particles are going to just be smothered all over the planet and are going to help the planet have a better soil mixture so that it can grow plants better. I'm just making up stuff now, but it's not stuff that's out of the question, I don't think, because of what our science has taught us about how comets and asteroids deposit, and meteors seem to deposit certain elements in the craters that we've found around the planet. Not me, but we as a human kingdom, we. Oh, good question. They're all good questions. It's a different question than I ever got before. Were there any pets allowed? Did anyone like to stay up night hours? Yeah. We did have pets at one time. It was about 1980. 4 or 5, when I think 84, because I think we had TM Doe brought us a lot of stuff that year, that Christmas actually, we got a lot of changes happened that year. And that was the year before T left her vehicle. That was the Christmas before she left her vehicle, which is the only Christmas, one of the only ones we celebrated in a certain way. We didn't celebrate it exactly the way humans do, because we knew that was a pagan holiday. But not that there's anything wrong with paganism. I'm just saying from our perspective now, there's nothing wrong with anything. all paths to the top of the mountain are valid. It's getting off the mountain that's the hard part, and that's only possible with the next level's instigation through their incarnate members. The current one being Tian-Do. Ultimately, even though we can be all headed in that direction, to degrees. So yeah, we had the parrots. We had one parrot in our craft. We called our houses crafts, like a spacecraft, even though it wasn't decorated in any way to make it look like a spacecraft. And we had finches, maybe 6 or 7 finches, and we had parakeets, 2 parakeets. And we taught the parakeets to say some of the things that Tian-Do said, like, get your mind in your vehicle. Get your mind in your vehicle. In other words, take control of what you're doing, whether that was walking softly or not whispering when you didn't need to talk louder, or many things. We had many things that were taught. It was, in that way, it was very militaristic, but there was no fighting, and there was, none of that, and there was no arguing. Well, I take it back. There was arguing between students. Sometimes you would call it that. People having confrontational conversations. But no yelling. I never heard of anybody yelling. Nobody ever reported that they were yelling. That would have been considered a slippage. And we reported everything and we had people watching us. I mean, not people watching us. I shouldn't say it that way, because it sounds like, you were under a stethoscope. But in a sense, we were, because we wanted to be. And we did have people watching us at one point that were ourselves. We had people assigned to watch everybody else, and we all took turns doing that, and then recording the things that weren't according to procedure. If we didn't want to change those things that we did that weren't according to procedure, then we didn't want to be in the classroom. That's what I'm saying. It was hard to be there because you were watched, except in the bathrooms, and you weren't watched at night when you were sleeping. Okay, I just disconnected and reconnected again. I just disconnected and reconnected again. So that's why my stream software did it, my encoder software. You can hear the birds chirping and so. No, I don't have birds now. That's funny. Oh, you can hear the birds chirping on the audio tapes. Yes, that's right. You can hear a parrot too sometimes. And I think Tian-Do even talk about the parrot once in a while. So listen to that parrot squawking. Yeah, and so we taught also we taught the parakeet. We didn't teach the parrots anything, but we didn't have them very long. It was at the most probably maybe a month. I would think maybe 2. I don't know. We had them that long. But we also had puppies and kittens born in our class, and 2 different periods of time when we were leasing very rural property where there were cats running around, cats roaming around, and dogs roaming around. So they were just wild. They weren't wild. They were part of this farmer's ranch that he had, a big cattle ranch. We didn't have the cows around us, but they were. I think some of the students found a pregnant puppy a pregnant dog and took it in and birthed it. Maybe they talked to the owners first, and the owners, because I don't know, I wasn't part of the crew that would have been doing that if they had reason to talk to the owners about it. But we ended up, I don't know what happened to the puppies, or the kittens. See, I didn't know a lot of things sometimes like that because I had a job in the world. We called it an out-of-craft task. And so I didn't, some things that I didn't experience. Like the in-craft members experienced. But anything that was from Tiendo that I experienced, because they held their meetings at night when everybody was back from their jobs, their out-of-craft tasks. They changed the terminology was changed on everything. And, whoa. I guess it's still working. The video's not working anymore, I see. But it says I'm still streaming. Anyway, so, okay, let's see, I guess what I was asking was if there's so much misinformation here on Earth that then it would be almost impossible to find the next level information as the info is diluted more and more, right? Yes, that's right. That's true. But the next level helps people find it. And one of the ways they do that is by stimulating, I don't know exactly if it's built in now at this point to the programs, but they have computer systems, and so they can alter whatever the programs are doing, and they can actually go to people and give them ideas. And so, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if this is the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if Lil Uzi Vert came upon that artwork, for instance, of the Heaven's Gate website and liked it. And said, hey, I'm going to use that in my next album cover or whatever, the Instagram. And he put Doe in his Instagram character. So that's, in some ways that's a negative because that's diluting it, right? But at the same time, it can be a positive because more people see the next level, see that artwork, and then want to hear about where that came from when they hear about it. And so they start talking about the next level. And that then stimulates people, obviously can see the connections. And so the next level is using everything. But they also said about the misinformation that the Christians in particular almost don't stand a chance to see the truth in what Tiendo are teaching because of how the Luciferian space aliens have so bombarded them with getting off the track of what was important and just staying on what was not important to seeing who Tiendo are. Like, for instance, the whole fact that the next level is a family, and the human kingdom is a temporary family, so they don't really exist in terms of the way the next level exists forever. That's why Jehovah was called I Exist. And so therefore, to become a member of the next level, one has to overcome their humanness, and that includes their genetic family. And the bonds, the roots they have to it. Tiendo taught that the that our physical bodies actually have a root system that we can't see that connects us to our strain of human vehicles. And so the Christians, what do you see them teaching now? Everybody teaches this. I mean, of course, the family is everything. And of course, it is on the human kingdom level, but the individuals that are separating from their families naturally are actually growing closer to the next level potentially, which is not. I'm not saying that's the only way that they can grow closer to the next level. So individuals that are really glued to their family doesn't mean that they don't have a connection with the next level. They can, but just not in that way. And so they might be somebody that, when their son and daughter grows up and they don't want to be part of the family, what happens is the son or daughter wants to move away, and join the Peace Corps or the military or whatever it is. And that's like, the little birdie leaving the nest. And that challenges the mother, to feel those birth pains and also learn that when they're gone, she can still be happy, even though she misses them. So that teaches us that the separation can be a positive thing, especially when it's voluntary. And for all the T&O members, I can say 100% sure is they were all voluntary. And I can back that up in many cases. I can't back it up with every case because I didn't know everybody. But I did know at least, I never did count actually the ones that I knew the best, that I was with for 19 years and they were in the group for 22 years. Because I could see in their exit videos, they're saying all the same things that I was feeling and saying when I joined, and what I felt about T&O the whole time I was there. I loved them, and I grew to love them. I didn't love them right away because I didn't know what love of them was. But I knew I wanted to follow them right away. And I was willing to trust them 100% right away. And I didn't know it. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew it wouldn't be bad. I just knew that. And it's not the first thing that I kind of tried. I mean, I only dabbled in other things. I never got into anything else big time. I danced with the Sufis and I meditated on Sri Chinmoy's face, and I meditated in other kinds of meditations with groups, and I read the autobiography of a yogi, and I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, trying to understand what enlightenment was, and wanted to be enlightened, and I was I had read a bunch of other books. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which was kind of like a reincarnation book. Early on when I was in high school, I started reading that because my buddy, my high school buddy who was a year older than I was, he had some of those books. He had Kahlil Gibran. He was a Jewish person, and he had, I guess, my parents didn't have anything, but the Bible was. I didn't study. Well, I did kind of look at the Bible, but I wasn't taught to by my parents. I was brainwashed into the Catholic. I mean, they didn't really brainwash me. They didn't do a very good job of it. because I rebelled right away from the Catholic teachings, and I was not a very nice person growing up, I don't think. I mean, I was okay. I didn't hurt anybody physically, but I didn't do everything according to the law either. Besides, my drug use, of course, I got into acid, dropped a lot of acid and mescaline. But I quit that pretty early on. But I still ate some mushrooms when I was months, maybe a year before meeting up with T and Doe. Maybe not as much as a year. But that was the last time I did anything stronger than a couple of hits on the pipe, the weed, and maybe some hash once in a while. I just get into my drug history, I don't think of them as, they are drugs, yeah, they are, but everything's a drug. And right now, my biggest drug is cayenne pepper. And I don't take it to get high. I take it to dissolve the mucus in my arteries, so maybe I can live a little longer, to do this task a little longer. And I'm not saying that I don't enjoy my life outside the classroom. I don't have any reason to not enjoy it. I have it pretty easy, actually, compared to some people. And actually, that brings me back to something I said right in the beginning of this broadcast, where T would say, I got distracted right at that second there by something else, and I gotta stop letting that happen. But it happens to me more when I'm tired. It's like the influences around me can actually distract me. They probably send me a little, and I'm not strong enough to fight it, so I go off the subject. And I talk about it, and I go further off the subject. But I want to try to get back to it. Right. Lily, someone's saying V in the chat room that Lil Uzi Vert is a sound alike for Lucifer. You don't want to be promoted by that guy. No, see that Lucifer's been let's just say what T and Doe said about Lucifer. They said, what I remember is that they said that he and the ones that sided with him were given many chances to change their behavior from going against the next level and teaching others to go against the next level. So, but they said that the next level still loves Lucifer, and that Lucifer is a very an enlightened being. He knows a lot how the garden grows. Him and his fellows that he were in a previous classroom with, they worked for the next level to some degree. Doing elementary tasks was the words that T and Doe used for it. And I believe Enoch talked about how they were watchers, and that was the primary job, the first job that you get in a next level laboratory. And they are completely functioning laboratories, all kinds of laboratories. One of the laboratories they talked about was a weather lab, where they were saying this was fictional based on the truth. And so they depicted in their movie that they were writing that Tiendo had some students write and illustrate, which are the illustrations are on my Facebook page, Sawyer Heaven's Gate. Was that there was a weather lab, and it just showed a picture of a spacecraft, like from it was like a spacecraft with a long protruding platform, small tiny platform where 2 or 3 individuals were standing. So it looked like a control center, not a center, like a pilot seat. And so you didn't see the rest of that spacecraft. And then and they had a big window. The whole spacecraft was like a window, almost. And then you saw below them, you saw like a hurricane or a cyclone or like the picture of Hurricane Michael, or Florence actually. The picture of Florence really reminded me of that picture. So the next level is actually the ones that are in control of the weather. Humans aren't doing it. I heard somebody say today, that was from some blog that I used to be a part of, but then they kicked me off of it. It was called Star Child or Star Earth, Starship Earth maybe? Starship Earth. Anyway, she was saying, because I still get her posts, I just can't comment on them anymore, that I'm aware of. I haven't tried in a while, that the Hurricane Michael was steered into the Florida by the Democrats because Florida is a Republican state. Which, you know, what she got wrong about that was that humans were doing that. Or maybe she believes the space aliens are doing it. When I don't believe either of them can control the weather. And there's a lot of reasons why I say that. And most of them are because Tiendo taught us that the next level controls the weather. And they actually make tornadoes happen. And everything actually. And but that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of automatic things that are happening. But they can tweak things too. So if the sun is scheduled to release a certain amount of solar wind, that's going to heat up the magma, that's going to cause the plates to move around a little bit. You know, they can do that, and we're not able to measure how much of that heat is going right through the Earth. And you know, we can actually measure it probably more now than we ever have, but I don't know if we can measure all the rays of the sun. We don't know what we don't know. And we already have evidence that the next level can work in the spectrums that humans can't see. Tienzo says there could be a planet that has population on it and things happening that humans can't see. It could be nearby. It doesn't have to be really far away. And that they don't have the, you know, I don't need to go any further. So, you know, to advance the possibilities that come with that idea. They never said which planets they thought might be that way, but so in that way, that I've had at least one individual say that they came to this live stream because of watching that little Uzi Vert, and then I don't know how it got to here, but I know one person told me that. So, and another person, several people have told me that they came to this podcast, I mean this, whatever you want to call it, via the 10 series podcast that happened in, it's called Heaven's Gate, that's on iTunes, that I was a part of. And I don't know, maybe they came, also people can come from my Facebook page. But my point is that the Next Level has ways of using all this, even though he's promoting kind of a Luciferian kind of point of view, and who knows, maybe some horrible things. I mean, people are using all kinds of horrible things, really, if you think about it. People sucking each other's blood, that's, in reality, that would be considered a pretty horrible thing, for me. But yet there's groups of people that believe that they're vampires, and they practice it to some degree, I guess. So to me, that's, but that's, kind of, I mean, they're not hurting anybody but themselves, so I don't see anything wrong with that. But, I mean, you wouldn't get into the next level with that kind of behavior. So, that's, but the next level wasn't against pleasure either. But they wanted to be they needed to be the ones to give us the pleasures that we were allowed to have. That we wanted them to have that control over us. I wanted that control. I fully wanted to do everything they told me to do. Yeah, I certainly didn't live that way in my life before I joined them. I rebelled from everything. I rebelled from the law. I was a thief a little bit. It wasn't that much. It wasn't from people. It was from corporations. And I mean, I wasn't a big time thief. I outgrew it by the time I hit 19, I guess, 19 or 20. Because I didn't steal anything when I was living in Oregon before I joined from anybody. Or in Canada before that, when I lived in Canada, I didn't steal anything from anybody or any stores. I think it was just, maybe 18 or... Well, I was still living in my parents' house. I left them when I was 18. I went to school for a year in West Virginia. And that was it was a good exposure to the world, to be in a hick place and to grow your hair long during the Kent State events that were happening. When my friend that was going to school with me was the brother of one of the male individual from Long Island that was killed at Kent State. I don't know, just a little background there. But yeah, I think it's part of little Uzi Vert's his act, and it attracts a certain amount of attention with that because it's popular to be Luciferian, or as long as you're not really Luciferian. And really Luciferian would be like saying, teaching people that the kingdom of God doesn't exist. Even people that believe in Lucifer sometimes think that the kingdom of God exists, I think. You know what, I really don't know that. So as it came out of my mouth, as it was coming out of my mouth, I was thinking, you don't know that. So maybe that was my mind that's outside this vehicle, or maybe it was the next level helping me, or another soul helping me with that. Because it's easy to get off track and start, expanding things. I want to try to keep this as close to Tien Do teachings as possible. Did Doe ever speak on Melchizedek? You know what? I don't really remember anything. But what came to mind when you said that was a place in Daniel. And I wonder, I'm just wondering out loud, I wonder if the same soul that was in Melchizedek was the soul that did the task of Daniel, which wouldn't have been Teardo. Just because I made that relationship. Because when you said that question, and I was thinking about Melchizedek, and I had the image of something T said. That's why I'm thinking that there was a connection, maybe. That maybe Melchizedek had some influence over Daniel, which I wouldn't be all surprised, because that's the way it works. Individuals are prepared for harder and harder tasks, where they're more and more of service to the next level. So Daniel was a servant of the next level, but he wasn't the older member yet. So he was contacted by Michael the Archangel, and I think Gabriel also. And Michael the Archangel shows evidence of having been Doe before he was incarnate as Jesus. But they didn't teach that. They didn't talk about that, any of that. But the thing that T said about Michael and being related to Doe and all that Daniel parts. But I can include Daniel in there because Jesus talked about Daniel. And since T and Doe talked about everything that Jesus said was accurate, even though it's been there's a lot of bad spots in it that have been mistranslated a little bit here and there, but not so bad that the accuracy doesn't still come through of the overall picture of progressing towards leaving the human kingdom. If the next level leads me in a direction to where I end up playing music with any of those, any of the famous, popular players, I'll do it. I'll do it. I mean, I can get along with anybody. I don't have a judgment that people are evil that I meet. I don't know what they do, and I mean, if they're killing people on the side, I certainly don't want to go with them. Or if they're sacrificing, if they're doing blood sacrifices and stuff of animals, I don't think I want to have anything to do with them. But humans are doing blood sacrifices of animals all the time to eat them. So I mean, just say different words and make it into a ceremony, But and I eat some flesh anyway, to get off the track. But so a lot of people that go in different directions that seem extreme like that are seeking actually to get away from reality, or they're trying to just make money. But they're trying to make money by depicting the furthest things out that they can imagine, which might be natural for them to think about, because of their upbringing and what they were exposed to in the movies, and so some people are horror story buffs, right? And so So but I mean, he could be in his own right, actually believing some of what T and Do were talking about, or all of it, for all I know. Maybe that's why he wanted to put Do's picture there, but maybe he's not ready to say that, or ready to change any of his behaviors, because just believing in T and Do, are they who they said they are, is a big step, is a huge step. But the second step to that is necessary if we want to be saved by the next level, is to work for them and stand for them. Now, the process of standing for them and then maintaining that stand until we lose these vehicles, however that happens, that's the journey that we all can have, no matter where we are in our beliefs right now. And all our beliefs may end up logically coming in our heads, coming to the point of seeing that. And it can be scary, of course, because the vehicle doesn't want to change from the things that have become comfortable and pleasurable to the vehicle. And that's what's good about the bad thing about disease, but it's the good thing about disease too, because it faces us with that when the vehicle's not feeling well, we don't really want to have those pleasures. We just want to anesthetize ourselves, mentally or physically. When we're not feeling well mentally or physically, both, we want to anesthetize ourselves mentally and physically. And that brings about addiction. And so, and then some hit bottom and live through it and come up with a new direction. So it's like it's like that blade of grass is just, well, I'm a blade of grass also. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm anything different. But that blade of grass is just shooting up again, a little bit higher than they were before, a lot of times, before they sank. And even though they might fail again, if they keep on trying to do better and people help them do that, because they can, for whatever reason, maybe because they want to help somebody that went through that they went through that with, get through it like they did, everything becomes a positive then in the human kingdom. So everything can be used as an opportunity to grow closer to the next level. And so then when the next level is finished with the garden, they know which spirits to save, they know which souls to save, they know which, and they're doing that all along anyway, because of people dying all the time. Their computer systems are amazing. And we are able now in history to see the reality of that potential, the potential reality to that. Because we have global positioning systems. We can see with the cameras, we can who knows what we can see now with the cameras. We could probably see somebody's dirty toenails if they're walking around barefoot in the desert. So the thing that T said and joked about was in Daniel, and it had to do with, it sounded like tickle me Farsi, or something like that. Tickle me Farsi. Tickle me Farsi. Now, anybody ever heard anything like that? But I saw that in the book of Daniel somewhere. I forgot which book it was. I think maybe one of the earlier books, maybe like book 4 or something. And T would laugh when she would say that, and I never knew what she was laughing at. I still don't. All right, I think I've got to turn into a pumpkin, or whatever I'm going to turn into. Not a werewolf. I don't have that flip side. My flip side, you're seeing my flip side, in a sense. Because I don't talk about this all the time at all, hardly at all, with except on the internet. And I don't talk about it on my other Facebook page. That's more the people that know me, live around where I live and stuff. Because a lot of them don't want to hear it anyway. So it's not like I'm not like holding it back because I don't want to talk about it. I'm holding it back because I already know they already know what I was a part of and had their varying levels of interest or not, and so we agreed to disagree on certain things. Like one friend of mine who I'm close friends with, play music with, says that God isn't real, and so I said, well, I don't agree, but let's just agree. So, we're civil about it, and we still like each other. But wow, is it heating up out there, huh? Whew. Wow, it's so escalated. To people are talking about killing so easily now, as if to try to get rid of others that they don't like. Wow, no wonder why, Tiendo said that this place was a snake nest. Because that's, not there's anything wrong with the actual reptiles that are called snakes, because it didn't mean that. It's a snake nest of deceit and self-destruct mentality and destruction of others, destruction. Everything destruction. But making it appear that it's wonderful and proper and right and just and righteous and so yes, if that all drives people to religion, I hope they keep on seeking so they get past the religions and they take a look at reality with Tiendo's teachings. They said they gave a lot of material, and it's not all or nothing. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to encourage people because I needed to be encouraged when I came back to not believing, when I came back to wanting to be of service again to Tiendo. Because when I left, I did not want to be in service to them anymore. I didn't think of it that way, but I was just so enjoying even trivial human freedoms that we take for granted, like choosing what foods I was going to eat. I was perfectly satisfied with all the diets that we had, even though some of them were hard to get through a little bit. Because we had liquid diets that were bitter, like wheatgrass kind of tasting. And to drink, 16 ounces of that in one sitting, of a slush that was like made out of sprouts, buckwheat sprouts and sunflower seed sprouts. But waking up today to wheatgrass juice, and then having some carrot juice with all kinds of vegetables in it, and as like a breakfast, and then having a green drink, which was like the thickness of like a slushy kind of thing, and we made in a blender using the sprouts that we grew. There were racks all over the house. We lived in John Wayne's house, old house, one of them. I don't know how many houses he had, but it might have been the only one for all I know. But in California, and we had racks all over the place. It was a big place, and we were growing all different stages of sprouts and wheatgrass, and harvesting it every day. And then using that for our compost to grow the next versions. And I got off the track, but I like to add in little things like that because, you know, it's hard to stay on any one subject anyway. So why not create little threads that go full distance in all different directions? Not planned by me, that's for sure. I'm just ad-libbing. That's pretty obvious. I know I'm very wordy, and I know I'm a terrible speller, and I know there's a long list of the things that I know that I'm not very good at. So if anybody's thinking about it, reminding me, don't bother. I was about to close, and then I got something else entered into my brain. So let me think. I'll just think if there's anything else I want to put on this. Since there's, wow, 7 hardy souls out there. Let's see. I don't even know what to title this one in the description, because I feel like it really went all over the place this time. That's what I'll say. I'll just say this went all over the place. And people that have been here before, which I do recognize some of your handles, will know what to expect from it. Yeah, I'm going to close down. So thank you very much for lending a listening ear to this, because otherwise, I certainly wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't somebody out there to hear what I'm saying, because I tried that. It's fun. It's okay. I need to do that instructionally sometimes, but I like this better because I interface with you all too, and I get to hear what's on your mind, and I'll try to do that more. Oh yeah, I just saw something in the Norse myth category talking about whether Tiendo, if I heard about certain things, and I'm going to have to save this for another time, but we have the Dwarf Planet Ceres, which is the Roman mythology of the goddess Ceres, like cereal, and also the harvest. And that's the period of time we are in right now, I believe. I think that started in 2017, but it initially started in a bigger surge in 2015, and maybe even started in 2013, because the next level does things in steps and surges and give us chunks. Tiendo talked about getting chunks of information. I think they did. So, you know, I can lose some of my memory too, and but the idea comes across, I think, equally. I mean, we did have lessons on trying to be accurate and following procedures. We had to repeat back some of the things that Doe gave us to do, like if we were going to town and we were getting a oil change and there was a list of 2 or 3 things. You know, we did take notes, and then we would read them back. Sometimes when Doe felt like he wanted to make sure we understood all the points that he wanted to have covered in a task we were doing out of craft or in craft. And so I would repeat back, and I wouldn't get it right to the letter, but Doe felt like I was getting it to the intention, even though sometimes he would correct me. As I was repeating it back to him. But Doe is the gentlest soul you can imagine, the most beautiful soul that was on the planet besides his older member, who is a beautiful soul beyond my reach of understanding what T was like. I mean, I know what T was like during the time I spent with her by examples, but I don't claim to be able to hold in my consciousness T's capacity of thinking in her vehicle. Getting to the point quickly, deciding on making choices very quickly. Instead, for me, it takes forever for me to make choices about things. I gotta look at all the angles, and Doe said that's what happened to him, that he had to look at a lot of stuff that T didn't need to look at, and that T taught him actually didn't teach him. He had to come to realize it himself when T finally said one day, "I'm not taking another step." And she sat on the curb in the street, and she said, "I'm not taking another step until, I'm not taking another step," is what he told us that T said. And she put her head in her hands. And because Doe wanted to keep on trying different options that T already knew, but he learned that when T would let him do those things, T would be right, that they didn't gain anything from it, or they didn't get what they were looking for to get, or meet who they were hoping to meet, or whatever it was that they were using to. When they were led around the next level, they felt like they were cameras and microphones for the next level. When they were traveling around the country back and forth throughout, to Maine to San Diego, and Canada into Florida. Trying to figure out what they were supposed to, what prophecies they were supposed to fulfill. That was their first traveling, was trying to figure out. All right, there's so many more things I could talk about, and most of them are in the live streams in the past. But it seems like there's always more detail that can be shared sometimes. So I'm going to keep on doing this as long as I can. So good night.